Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Brecht Gets Leads. Today, I will talk about all the issues that can show up during a marketing campaign and how you can solve them, because it's a lot more than just getting leads. There are several problems we can have. The first one is the leads. So we need to make sure we have good advertisements and that we have a good cost per lead, that the leads are coming in at a fair quality and a good price, so that we can just have a lot of volume. That's what the advertisements are going to do, and that's usually about 30% of the work of getting someone results. Sometimes a little bit more than that, but usually most of the time it's not more than 50% the leads. That's very, very rare when it happens. So we've got the leads. The second stage is converting the leads to appointments. So these are people that now we don't just have their contact details, but we've actually talked to them on the phone usually, and this prospect agreed that he wants to meet us. We either want to go to his home, he will come to our office, or there will be a digital meeting of some kind. That's what we call an appointment in the marketing world. So this can be a second problem, that we don't get enough people to book in. And the way we solve that is by following up the leads. Now, I've made the mistake with some customers in the past that I've relied too much on automations. With all the new technologies that are coming out, AI is trying to automate a lot, and it's doing a decent job at that, but it's not a replacement for human-to-human contact. And that's also something that we're starting to see more and more, especially in marketing, in calling up the leads and contacting people, that usually the results are a lot better when we call them up in person and we have like a human conversation with them. So I would say definitely invest in AI, but at the same time realize that it is only a tool that helps us out. It is not going to be the main thing that gets us a result. It's useful, but it's not the main thing that gets us results. Most of the time it's not. So you really need to have a good communication with these leads. And most of you will already be familiar with the common strategy that you need to call these leads within the first 5 minutes, because otherwise the quality of the leads will drop and the conversion rate will drop. Now, that's actually true. Some people don't think that's true. It is true. So you want to contact these leads as fast as possible. Now, I'm not going to say that if you contact them in the evening, the same day, it's going to be, you're still going to see a drop-off, but you might be fine, depending on your advertisement campaign and your market. You might be fine if you do that. But if you really want to get the most of your campaign, then I do recommend calling up within the first 5 minutes. Now, that's only one thing. Actually, it is very important, but what's at least as important is the way you communicate with your leads. So this comes down to sales, a lot of it. It's actually something that a position in sales that several companies have, a sales development representative or an appointment setter. They specialize in actually calling up these leads. But for smaller business owners, that's not something that's possible. You don't have the budget for that. So then you need to keep in mind that you need to call these leads up yourself, or you need to have an agency doing it for you. Whichever way you go, it will be important to realize that your communication will have to be on point if you want to see good results. Most of these people, when they fill in the form And when you contact them, they are a bit surprised because they don't expect it, even though they filled out the form, but they don't expect it. I think they're just not still not very used to the way Facebook advertising is done. It's still a relatively new technology, so I think people aren't really fully used to that yet. So people are still coming a bit like out of the blue, like who, and you're gonna have to explain or at least show who you are and talk to this person in a positive and great way that converts into your business. So if you're great at sales, usually you won't have a problem with calling the leads up and converting them. It's a little bit different than actual sales calls or going and make quotes or sales in person. It's faster. It's I would say it's a bit easier, but it is different. So it is sort of a separate skill you might need to develop. But it just comes down to being honest about what you're offering them, and also about persuasion. So persuading them, qualifying them, seeing if they're serious, and also understanding why they're there. So understanding what kind of problems they have, and then trying to guide them to the right solution, and making people trust you as well. Those are all very important things. And of course, being assertive and being having a healthy leadership is going to be very important as well. So communication is very important in converting the leads from lead to appointment. And that's the second problem you can have. You can implement some AI for that, but most of the results you will get from actual contacting them physically in person or on the phone, but still in person on the phone. So that's problem 2. The third problem someone can have is the appointments are booked, but either they're not showing up or they are showing up, and you're having a meeting with this person, you're having an appointment with this person, but they're not converting. So in the first case, they're not showing up. It's something that you can't avoid. You always have no-shows. A good no-show rate is usually about at least 50%. So you need at least 50% show rates. If you are above 60%, I would say that that's great. But realistically, you're not going to get more than 70, 80%. That's not going to be possible. So you need to accept that there will always be no-shows. Now, that said, if you are having an issue with no-shows or you would like to improve it beyond 50%, a lot of that comes down to your communication in the initial calling of the leads. You need to be more specific. You need to be more firm about what you're going to do with this person. So make sure the person is bought into your product or service, and make sure that prospect knows that, hey, we're going to do this or that at this specific time, and we will be expecting you at this place. So make sure you communicate all that very clearly, and then ask if they are sure don't have anything planned that day, if everything is all right for them. So really, you really need to dig into that and make sure that they're on board and they're bought in. And when you do that, the better you do that, the better your show-up rate is going to be. So if you're above 50%, especially if you're above 60%, I would say don't worry about show rate. But if you're below, then it might be a problem you probably need to fix, actually. But that aside, I would still actually consider that part of the second problem because it's related to calling up the leads. The third problem is sales, and that is the appointments that are not converting into sales, so not converting into people that are willing to work with you or are willing to buy your products. And this, unfortunately, is mostly in the hands, if you're working with an agency, it's mostly in the hands of you. So I guess this is fortunate, depending on the way you look at it. But in order to see a better close rate, this is like a whole school of business and a whole school of thought of how to improve your sales calls to have a better closing rate, to convert more customers. There's a whole thousands of books have been written on that. So it's a very mature subject. There's a lot you can learn from that as well. You're probably already familiar with that, but if you're not, I will talk about some of the basics. So it's important in these sales calls that you listen to the customer, especially if you're doing a longer sales call. If you're selling something that's priced a little bit more, usually you want to do a little bit of a longer sales process. So this might just mean that you're sitting down with the prospect for half an hour and you have like a sort of a consultation with your customer. So for that, in order to then see good results with that, usually you will have to listen to why that prospect is there. Why did he choose to come visit you? Usually that they will have a reason to visit you. So they will have some kind of problems that they're dealing with or something they want to improve in their life. So you need to listen to what they want. And you also need to dig into that yourselves, because you need to uncover why that person is actually there. And that might need some involvement on your part, because not everyone will just tell everything himself. You will have to be involved with that person in order to really uncover what are they struggling with, why are they frustrated with what they're doing or their previous services or products. And in the first phase, I would say is just really important to get as much clarity on that as you can. So this requires good communication to figure that out with the customer. Also, in the first phase, it will be important that you take the lead, because otherwise the sales call will go in all kinds of directions. You need to make sure that you have a process that it doesn't need to be a rigid process, but it can be like a good firm system. But if you go too rigid, you sometimes have problems, because then you can't adjust to specific situations as much. So I would say whether you go rigid or more fluid, I think it's important to have a system, but also to be able to adjust to the situations that come up. So in any case, it's important that you lead your customer through that, because that's why he's there. He's there to see what you can do, and he's there because something interested you about something isn't interested them about you. So now it's your job to show them what you can actually do, and therefore you will have to lead them. So you need to make sure you're actively asking questions about why the customer is there. You need to make sure you're actively advancing the conversation, because the customer is there to learn from you. So yeah, that's the first phase. Now, once you have uncovered their pain points, what they're struggling with, it's important that you ask them where they would like to go. So what is you've now learned about their struggles. Now it's time to learn a bit more about where they actually want to go, and also create a gap for them. Make sure that they can see where they are currently and where they would like to be realistic about that with them, and show them usually that there will be a gap, otherwise they wouldn't be there. So you need to make this person realize that he's not at his goals yet, but he could be, but there is something that needs to be done. So in this second phase, you ask him more about his dreams, his aspirations, his goals, and then you talk about that with him. So you talk about what does it mean for him? What would it mean for him to reach this goal? Why is this important? As a way to qualify them, but also as a way to understand them and make them realize their position that they're in. Once you uncover that, and once the prospect is a bit understanding of their situation, then you show them what you can do for them. But at that point, it's important that you already have listened a lot to the customer and you know exactly what he's dealing with. Therefore, you will be able to show him what you can do for him. So first, go over all the points that you show him that you listen. So show him a summary of what his situation is, what he would like to do, why it's important for him, and then tell the customer that what you can actually do for him. So that's when you go into your pitch. This could be like a formal process if you're beginning, a formal piece of text that you memorize. You should probably have it memorized to explain what your service can do. If you're a little bit more advanced, you can be a little bit more fluid in that and adjust more to what the customer wants. You don't want to make it too fluid, because that's not going to lead anywhere. You want to make sure that you know what you do with your business and what problems you can solve. But it's good to be a little bit fluid to be able to adjust that to what your customer just told you or what your prospect just told you. So then you need to explain, Mr. Customer, my service does this, usually work with people like this. Now you told me that you are struggling with pain points X and Y. Actually, this is what we've solved for customers like this in the past, or this is what we solve for customers that are struggling with these specific issues like you. And we've actually found a system that can improve the situation, and actually you could see some great results, and that could really improve your situation. So that's your pitch. I don't know if I should use that word, because usually when people think of pitch, they think of something like sleazy. So it doesn't have to be like that. So it's just a way that you talk and explain what your service does to your specific prospect. So once you do that, once you've explained what you do, once the customer gets it, you move on to the close. So that's when you ask the customer how he feels about what you're offering them, and then he might give you objections like, hey, he might not feel ready. He might say, well, I need to think about it. That's like the most common objection you'll probably get, because people are doubting. They're not sure. They're not confident. They might be half asleep if you're not doing your job correct. So you need to instigate, and you need to take action, because you want to get a customer for yourself, and you also want to help this person achieve their, improve their situation potentially. So that's important. Then There's a lot of objections you might have to go through, but that's a whole separate area. But basically, that's when you close and try to get the deal and also see if it's appropriate for that person. If it's not appropriate, then it's probably better not to close them. But it's also good to uncover those problems as early as possible. So you don't want to uncover problems at the end, because then you're kind of wasting time. So most of the problems you want to discover as early as possible in your discovery, when you're actually asking the customer questions, so that you don't figure this out on the end of your 1 hour, 2 hour call, or whatever it may be. So that's how you will close more sales. And usually those are the problems that small business owner struggles with. It's generating leads as number one. Usually that can be a problem. Then setting the appointments is number two, and that can also be a problem. And then getting the appointment to sale can also be a problem. And the issue is that a lot of people, they just think about the leads. Well, you should think about leads, but you should also think about the appointment setting and the closing, because if there's an issue there, you're not going to get good results. So we also need to keep in mind that, because that's equally important. Those are the three most common problems. Actually, there's a fourth category. They're not as related to marketing. They're more related to business. These are just people who maybe they have like a healthy and profit. They have an unhealthy profit margin. So their business, maybe they're getting a customer, they're not really making any profit from that customer, or they just don't keep the customer long enough, which means that the customer, no matter how many customers you will get from the marketing, it will never be enough, because you're just not making enough profit from them. So that's a problem on the business side of things that you need to fix probably before you do marketing, to be honest. If you solve it at the same time, you'll have to solve two problems at the same time. So solve your business first, then do marketing. If you like this video or you learned something, please give this channel a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And please tell me in the comments, have you ever had any issues in working with an agency? And what were some of the problems you had, or perhaps in running a marketing campaign yourself? I'm really curious, because I'm trying to make this channel for you guys. So I'd like to offer as much value as I can. So please let me know, and see you next time. Cheers.